Moving on, the next major inclusion is the song Happiness Is Not a Warm Scalpel, which is Amber Sweet's, or what is basically her big number in the movie now that Come Up and Try My New Parts was excised. It includes her, along with Roddy Largo, if you'll remember. It's her complaining about her botched plastic surgery. And this is actually the director's cut of the song, which is almost virtually the same, except Roddy's voice is somewhat more lower key at the beginning, and as well, before they break into their final screaming match, Roddy adds a couple lines. I think it's I never say anything when you came to me asking if you could be Asian, and it plays this weird kind of Asian tinge in the background, and I'm kind of baffled by this, because it's not bad, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it really doesn't sound all that great when listened to it. It's better in retrospect, I guess, and I don't really mind it too much. It won't hinder your enjoyment, except maybe the first time until you get used to it, but it's an odd inclusion, I mean, if you're not expecting it. Anyway, we're moving on to another shorter track called Tonight We Are Betrayed, which is Nathan's lines before At the Opera Tonight, leading into it. And actually, this is a fantastic standalone track. It's creepy, and I know it sounded this way in the movie, but it really accentuates it when you listen to it on itself. There's like floorboards creaking in the background, and like a real tension you can almost hear in the music. And again, this is a great example of how I think they were supposed to trying to connect the movie with all these little bits and pieces, bobs in between. But yeah, anyway, it's a good track. Next up is Interrogation Room Challenge, which greatly benefits from the single treatment. It is Roddy telling Shiloh that he wants her to catch the Repo Man. There's a few musical bits added in and a new beat in the background to really help give it some life. And it does work so much better as a single. And I gotta say, it's actually one of my more favorite tracks. I don't know if that's quite proper English, but whatever. It's one of the better tracks on this Deluxe soundtrack, in my opinion. It's definitely worth hearing. It's definitely worth owning, in my opinion, if you like Roddy. It's very downbeat, very low-key, but very sinister. I mean, you're actually thinking about it if you're listening to it, much like Tonight We Are Betrayed. The Deluxe soundtrack as a whole has more of a sinister tone to it. And I'm not sure whether that was intentional or not. I know the movie does have some sinister bits. Maybe it's just the ones that it picked out. Regardless, it does. And the final bit that is definitely worth noting is that there is a new song that no one has heard so far, except maybe people in on the production, of course, called Roddy's Chapel Sermon. And this is an excised song from the subplot I won't bother explaining. Basically, it's Roddy telling Shiloh to seek out the truth to get her cure. And if you want more information, go to the boards or Wikipedia. It probably explains it somewhere in there. But this is a fantastic rock song where Roddy really belts out the tune. It's quick, it's snappy, it's 55 seconds, easily the best track here. I realize why it was excised from the movie, because that entire plot was excised, but I'm so glad they put it on this soundtrack, even though it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the context, again, especially when they're leaving out the climax and these other important songs that were in the movie. People that are just randomly buying this because they like the movie and weren't Uber fans like myself wouldn't really know this. Anyway, kind of odd. And speaking of, the next song that was added is Piece de Resistance, which is the simple part after... Oh, I forgot to mention that, sorry. Right after Mag dies is an instrumental bit. It's panning over the crowd, and it's called Mag's Fall. And again, doesn't really work too great, but it's a nice connector beat, or connector beat after Chromagia. And it leads right into Piece de Resistance, and would be perfect if the climax was here. This entire section would be just beautiful. But it doesn't really work a whole lot well on its own. On the other hand, while this doesn't work well on its own, it is a fun track called Piece de Resistance. And it's basically Roddy's, "Stay tuned, folks, you don't want to move, folks." And it's literally just that. It's really short, and it's only 37 seconds long according to iTunes, but a lot of fun. And lastly, the last track they've added is 10-second opera, which is, if anyone remembers Shiloh fainting on stage and having the quick flashbacks the entire movie, is that with the voices excised. Yep, it is just that. Again, another entirely pointless inclusion that could only be a probable connector piece. I don't know what went wrong a lot of the times with this album. I am complaining a lot. That's not because of the quality of this album. You know what? For $12, if you're a big Repo fan, there is some good stuff on here. $9.99. There is Roddy's Chapel Sermon, Happiness Is Not a Warm Scalpel, all the Mag songs, Lungs and Livers, the opening Depraved Heart Murder at Sanitarium Square instrumental, Even Piece de Resistance is really fun. But these are good songs on here, don't get me wrong. If you're a Repo fan, buy this. If you're not an Uber fan, it's not really necessary. All the main pieces, aside from the climax, are included on the original. These are mainly just bits and pieces of things that they thought major fans would have been interested in, and I imagine that's who was going to be buying the soundtrack. Yet at the same time, I thought this is kind of the thing they were going to save for the pay site rather than the actual stuff. We're still missing the credit songs, so Ogre's version of Repo Man and Vuker, Aching Hour by Sarah Brightman. Again, Jen Turns is a particular disappointment because I love that song and I love that part in the movie. But you know what, like I said, I'll reiterate, if you're a Repo fan, buy this. It's more than worth it. There are some very disappointing exclusions, but at the same time, it's more Repo, you're getting more songs. It's worth the money. Check it out.